Hello, I'm Edward, your host. Welcome to the English Academy. I bet after this video you will be able to converse in English. Let's get started. Story 14. Coffee Shop Mix-Up. Ben walked into his favorite coffee shop on Monday morning, needing a strong cup to wake up. He ordered a large cappuccino with almond milk and waited near the pickup counter. A few minutes later, the barista called out, "Large cappuccino." Ben grabbed the cup and took a sip, but immediately noticed it tasted off. It was definitely not almond milk, and it was much sweeter than usual. He looked at the cup and realized it had someone else's name on it. He brought it back to the counter and said politely, "Hey, I think I grabbed the wrong drink." The barista smiled and said, "No worries, we'll make yours again right now." While he waited for the new drink, Ben laughed a little with the person next to him, who had taken his cup by mistake. "I think I got your vanilla latte," he said. They both chuckled and swapped cups. A few minutes later, the barista handed Ben his real order. "Here you go, extra almond milk, right?" Ben nodded, thanked them, and walked out feeling more awake already. Story 15. Lost Keys. Rachel was getting ready to leave her friend's apartment after a fun game night when she reached into her bag and realized something was missing, her keys. She paused and looked again, then emptied everything out onto the table. Still no keys. Her friend asked, "Are you sure you had them when you came in?" Rachel thought hard. "Yeah, I locked my bike out front, so I definitely had them then." The two of them went outside with flashlights and started searching around the front steps and sidewalk. After a few minutes of looking, Rachel spotted something shiny near the bushes. "Found them," she shouted. The keys had fallen out of her pocket when she pulled out her phone earlier. She picked them up with a huge smile and laughed. "Wow, I thought I was going to have to crash on your couch." Her friend laughed too and said, "Well, the couch is always available, just in case." Rachel thanked her again and rode home, making a mental note to zip her jacket pocket next time. Story 16. First day at a new job. Carla arrived 15 minutes early for her first day at a new job, feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement. She had picked out her clothes the night before, reviewed the company website one more time, and packed her lunch. As she stood at the front desk waiting for someone to greet her, she took a deep breath and reminded herself that it was normal to feel a little overwhelmed at the beginning. Soon, a woman named Tina came over with a warm smile and introduced herself as the team manager. She shook Carla's hand and said, "We're really happy to have you here. Let me give you a quick tour." They walked through the office as Tina pointed out the break room, the supply cabinet, and the meeting rooms. Carla was introduced to several coworkers along the way, all of whom seemed friendly and welcoming. After the tour, Tina brought her to her desk and showed her how to log into the computer system. "We'll keep things light today," she said, "just some onboarding and getting familiar with our tools." Carla nodded and smiled, grateful for the slower pace. As the morning went on, she sat through a couple of training videos and filled out some HR paperwork. At lunch, one of her coworkers invited her to eat with the group in the break room, and they all chatted about their favorite local restaurants and weekend plans. By the end of the day, Carla felt a lot more comfortable. She still had a lot to learn, but everyone had been kind, and the environment felt like a good fit. Walking out of the building that evening, she felt tired but hopeful, and proud of how the first day had gone. Story 17. A visit to the doctor. James had been feeling under the weather for a few days, headache, sore throat, a bit of a fever, and decided it was time to see a doctor. He called the clinic early in the morning and managed to get a same-day appointment. When he arrived, the waiting room was quiet, with soft music playing and a few people flipping through magazines. After checking in, he sat down and tried not to think too much about the worst-case scenarios. A nurse eventually called his name, checked his temperature, blood pressure, and asked a few routine questions. "The doctor will be with you shortly," she said, and left him sitting on the exam table in the small room. A few minutes later, the doctor came in, an older man with a calm voice and kind eyes. James explained his symptoms, and the doctor listened carefully, occasionally nodding and asking follow-up questions. After a short examination, the doctor said, "Looks like a mild case of the flu. Plenty of rest, fluids, and I'll give you a prescription to help with the symptoms." James felt relieved. It wasn't serious, and he'd caught it early enough. As he picked up the medicine later that afternoon, He promised himself he'd take it easy for the next few days. No late nights, lots of tea, and maybe some quiet time with a book or TV. Even though going to the doctor wasn't fun, it felt good to take care of his health and not just try to tough it out. Story 18. Grocery shopping with a twist. Nina usually did her grocery shopping on Saturday mornings, but this week had been so busy that she didn't make it to the store until late Sunday afternoon. The place was packed with people doing their last-minute shopping before the week started. She grabbed a cart and pulled out her list, trying to focus, but the crowded aisles made everything feel more chaotic. While reaching for a jar of pasta sauce, she accidentally bumped carts with a man coming from the opposite direction. "Oh, sorry," she said quickly, stepping back. He smiled and said, "No worries, it's like bumper cars in here today." They both laughed and moved on, weaving through the busy store. As she made her way to the dairy section, she noticed a little girl standing alone, looking nervous. Nina glanced around, but no adult seemed to be near. She walked over and gently asked, "Hi sweetie, are you lost?" The girl nodded with wide eyes and whispered, "I can't find my mom." Nina took her hand and said, "Let's go talk to someone at the front. They can help." Together, they walked to the customer service desk, where a store employee made an announcement over the speakers. A minute later, a woman came rushing over, clearly worried but relieved. "Thank you so much," she said to Nina, hugging her daughter. Nina smiled and said, "I'm just glad she's safe." The rest of her shopping trip felt a little lighter after that. Sometimes a quick errand turns into something much more meaningful. Story 19. Rainy day at the bus stop. Marcus had forgotten to check the weather before leaving the house that morning. He was wearing a light jacket and no umbrella when the sky suddenly opened up, and it began to pour. He ran to the nearest bus stop and took shelter under the small roof, already a bit soaked. There were a few others there too, including an older woman with shopping bags and a teenager looking at her phone. Everyone shared a quiet, slightly uncomfortable space as the rain drummed loudly on the metal roof above them. Marcus glanced at the bus schedule posted on the wall and sighed. His bus wasn't coming for another 15 minutes. After a few minutes of silence, the older woman said, "I haven't seen rain like this in weeks." Marcus nodded and replied, "Yeah, it came out of nowhere." They started chatting about the weather, how unpredictable spring could be, and how neither of them had dressed for it. The teenager eventually joined in too, complaining that her shoes were completely soaked. It was a strange kind of bonding, but comforting in a way. When the bus finally pulled up, everyone shuffled in, dripping wet but smiling a little. Marcus took a seat by the window and watched the raindrops race each other down the glass. He thought about how small shared moments like that, just waiting for the bus in a storm, could make the day feel a little more human. Story 20. Cooking dinner for friends. Tara had invited 3 of her closest friends over for dinner, and she was determined to cook everything herself. She spent most of Saturday morning cleaning her apartment, making a shopping list, and planning the menu. Around 4 p.m., she started chopping vegetables, boiling water, and following a recipe for homemade lasagna she'd found online. The kitchen filled with delicious smells, and she felt a mix of excitement and nerves. She wasn't used to cooking for more than just herself. When her friends arrived, they brought wine, dessert, and lots of laughter. They gathered in the kitchen while she finished up, helping her set the table and sneak tastes of the sauce. Once everything was ready, they all sat down at the table, plates full of steaming lasagna, salad, and garlic bread. "This is amazing," one friend said, taking a big bite. Tara blushed a little and smiled, feeling proud. They spent the next couple of hours eating, chatting, telling stories, and laughing until their stomachs hurt. After dinner, they helped her clean up and then moved to the couch for dessert and more conversation. As the evening wound down, Tara looked around at her friends and felt deeply content. Hosting had been more work than she expected, but seeing everyone happy and full made it all worth it. She decided she'd definitely do it again sometime soon.